The humid jungle air of Phuoc Tuy province hung thick like a shroud on that sweltering afternoon of July 18, 1966, the kind that choked your lungs with the metallic tang of wet earth and rotting leaves. Gunfire cracked through the undergrowth like thunderclaps, shredding vines and splintering bamboo, rat-tat-tat. Then silence, broken only by the ragged gasps of a young North Vietnamese army nurse named Lan Thien Nguyen. Her hands trembled as she clutched the grenade pinned loosely to her webgear, thumb hovering over the lever, heart pounding so hard it drowned out the screams of her dying comrade. This was it, the moment the propaganda had drilled into her since basic training. Captured by Australian SAS patrols meant horrors beyond death, rape, mutilation, a bullet to the back of the skull. Better to yank that pin and join her ancestors in a blast of shrapnel than face the white devils from down under. But then, impossibly, the shadow of a bearded figure loomed over her, rifle barrel steady but not firing. No roar of fury, no drag through the mud by her hair. Instead, a gloved hand extended a canteen. Water glistening. Drink, came the low, accented, calm as a summer breeze. How? How could the monsters her officers described, beasts who strung up prisoners by their ankles and peeled skin with bayonets, offer mercy like this? In that frozen heartbeat, Lan's world shattered, and with it, the iron grip of communist indoctrination that had armored her mind for years. This wasn't just one improbable encounter in the Vietnamese bush. It was the hidden edge that turned the tide for Australia's elite SAS regiment in the Vietnam War, a weapon sharper than any Owen gun or Claymore mine. While American GIs, bound by broader rules, yet often stretched thin by brutal jungle attrition, sometimes fueled the enemy's terror with their own raw firepower, the Aussies wielded something devastatingly precise, calculated humanity, and it broke NVA women soldiers faster than any interrogation room ever could. From Lan's foxhole that day, the world narrowed to pure dread. She'd been marching with a supply column deep in Phuoc Tuy, her medical kit slung heavy on her back, when the ambush hit at precisely 14:32 hours. No warning, just death whispering from the tree. Her platoon leader, a hardened Viet Cong cadre, had barked the doctrine at Reveille that morning. The Australian imperialists are worse than the Yankees. They don't take prisoners, they collect ears. Diaries captured later from NVA officers, archived in Australian war memorial reports, echoed this verbatim. Pages stained with sweat and fear, scribbled warnings of silent reapers who melted into the jungle like ghosts. Lan believed it, every word. Her grandmother's tales of French colonial tortures blended seamlessly with party posts showing Aussie diggers as snarling hyenas. Sleep came fitfully in their base camps, haunted by nightmares of bound wrists and leering faces. Many sisters in her unit, messengers and nurses like her, slept with grenades half-pinned, fingers itching for the end. The old way of war, the brute force her side knew so well, relied on terror as a blunt club. NVA ambushes were thunderous affairs, massed AK-47 fire, B-40 rockets turning patrols into bonfires, bodies left swollen in the heat as warnings. It worked on green troops, shattering morale like cheap glass. But against the SAS, laughable. These were no lumbering battalions. They were scalpels in a world of sledgehammer. A single four-man patrol could shadow a company for days, living off rice bowls and dew, striking with sniper precision, then vanishing. Intelligence debriefs from the 1st Australian Task Force, declassified in 1990, paint the contrast starkly. While U.S. operations like Cedar Falls bulldozed square kilometers with napalm and artillery, effective but noisy, alerting the enemy for miles, the SAS called in strikes within meters of targets, sparing civilians and prisoners alike. One report notes a patrol leader's log. Enemy medic treated on site, provided grid refs for Ho Chi Minh Trail spur before dust-off, no resistance. Through the eyes of those NVA women, the SAS weren't warriors. They were enigmas breeding madness. Take Sergeant Nguyen Thi Hoa, captured in a similar Long Tan Prelude skirmish weeks earlier. Her after-action confession, transcribed in SASR intelligence files stamped Top Secret, RIAF Evac, reveals the paranoia. We heard the whispers at night, shadows that smelled of eucalyptus and pipe tobacco, not the Yankee stink of aftershave and gun oil. My captain said they bayoneted babies for sport, but when they found me, bleeding from shrapnel in my thigh, the big one knelt, cut away my trousers with his knife, clean, no rip, and stitched me up with morphine from his pack. Offered a smoke, Asked about my family. She paused in the transcript, the interrogator noting her hands shaking. I told them everything. The lies. They lied about you all? This wasn't softness. It was surgery on the soul. Propaganda had forged these women into fanatics, willing martyrs clutching suicide grenades like talismans. Capture meant oblivion. Yet here were these laconic bushmen, faces blackened with camo paint, eyes hard from years in Malaya and Borneo, sharing their last cigarettes, bandaging wounds with the same sterile gauze the shock rippled outward. Reluctant at first, sipping water from alien canteens, they'd crack. Routes etched in bamboo maps, radio frequencies whispered in the hush of medevac choppers thumping overhead. One declassified PSYOPS memo from SAS Commander Major Harry Smith tallies it. Over 60% of female detainees flipped within hours, yielding intel that saved Australian lives and crippled supply lines. Lan herself, post-ambush, felt the walls crumble as the medic, call sign Doc Ellis per patrol logs, cleaned her cuts and murmured, "You're safe now, love. No one's hurting you here. No beatings, no stripping, just questions laced with quiet facts about the world beyond Hanoi radio static." By dusk, as Huey's winched her aboard, she'd sketched enemy bunkers dotting the trails to Nui Dat. Why Australians, not Americans? The Yanks' scale dwarfed them, massive sweeps, arc light bombings flattening villages, tales of My Lai horrors filtering back even through enemy lines. GIs were the storm. SAS, the scalpel's kiss, personal, precise, perversely kind. In the command tents of Phuoc Tuy, that July day etched a truth. War's greatest victories aren't won in blood, but in the quiet betrayal of broken myths. And as Lan's intel lit up the maps, the jungle whispered its warning to the NVA. Trust no one, especially the merciful. Word spread like monsoon fever through the NVA supply chains, snaking from the Ho Chi Minh Trail, carried on the lips of survivors who limped back to base camps with bandaged limbs and haunted eyes. Lieutenant Min Van Duke, a wiry political officer in the 275th Regiment, paced the mud-churned floor of his command hoot that same sweltering week, sweat beading on his forehead as he scanned the latest dispatches. His hands shook, not from malaria, but from the reports filtering in. 3 female messengers captured near Nui Dat, all singing like birds after a single night with the Australian ghost. Impossible, he muttered to his radio man, voice cracking like dry bamboo. Diaries from fallen sisters, smuggled out before their betrayal, painted the horror in frantic ink. They gave me sugar for my wounds, spoke of my village as if they knew it. The lies of the party, I see now. Min crumpled the page, his mind reeling. These weren't the rampaging imperialists Ho Chi Minh railed against from Hanoi. No, these Aussies were something worse, a poison seeping into the veins of his unit, turning conviction to ash. From Min's vantage, staring at the flickering oil lamp that night, the old war felt like a relic, clumsy and loud as a water buffalo charge. NVA tactics hammered with sheer numbers. Human wave assaults crashing against GI lines, booby-trapped trails claiming dozens in screams and dismemberment. It broke the Americans, sure. Their conscripts wept in foxholes, fragging officers in the dead of night, bodies piling up from friendly fire as much as bullets. But the SAS, declassified first ATF intelligence summaries from August 1966, yellowed pages now digitized in Canberra archives, detailed the mismatch with surgical clarity. While U.S. Marines swept Phuoc Tuy in Operation Nui Dat, churning Earth with M48 Pattons and 105mm howitzers that echoed for kilometers, alerting every sapper within earshot, a lone SAS patrol, 4 men, 40 kilos of gear, inserted via blacked-out Huey at Oru 200 hours. No thunder, no footprints wider than a deer. One log entry from Trooper Bluey Harlan read, "Contact at 0515. Female VC radio op, leg wound from our suppressed Sterling. Ceasefire on hands up. Treated with penicillin tabs, shared bully beef. By Aero 700, netted frex for 33rd Sapper B, exfil clean." The women saw it clearest, their fear twisting into a madness that gnawed at unit cohesion. Private Kim T. Lay, a 19-year-old courier who'd evaded capture only by diving into a leech-infested creek, confessed later in a smuggled letter intercepted by ARVN forces, now housed in the Vietnam Center's oral history vaults. My heart stopped when the patrol closed in during the rain squall off Baria Trail, August. Mud sucking at my boot, their shadows detaching from the trees like spirits from... Captain said Aussies skinned nurses alive, used ears as necklaces. I gripped my grenade, ready to paint the ferns red. But the leader, no, not a leader, a quiet giant with a beret tilted just so, lowered his weapon first, knelt in the filth, handed me his poncho against the downpour. Wet enough without this, eh? His mate unpacked a field dressing, cleaned the gash on my arm from a ricochet, humming some strange bush ballad. They smelled of salt sweat and tea tree, not the diesel reek of Yankee. Asked about my mother in Quangtree, like old mates at market. I broke, gave them the mortar cash cords before the chopper's blades whipped the mist. Min tore that letter in half, but the damage festered. Sleep evaded him, his cot a tangle of sweat-soaked netting, ears straining for the snap of twigs that never came. Reports piled up. A nurse from the 261st Battalion treated for malaria with Aussie quinine after stumbling into a patrol near Long Hai. A signals girl whose thumb slipped from her grenade spoon when offered a chocolate bar from a ration pack. PSYOPs Gold, per SASR After-Action Reviews, stamped August 1966. Female detainees, 72% cooperation rate versus 28% males. Indoctrination fragility confirmed. Humanity exploits ideological fractures. Contrast that with the American thunder. As one NVA cadre diary laments, Yankees bomb from the sky, villages to craters, women raped in the rice paddies per whispers from the south. We fight fire with fire. But these Anzacs, they heal, they listen, they unravel us from. Through the antagonist's eyes, the SAS patrol became phantasms of doubt. Sergeant Duke's own sister, embedded as a medic with a trail unit, vanished September 12th during a resupply run. Her last radio crackle, faint over static. They're here, not hurting, giving water. Then silence. Captured intel from her pack. Per declassified RAAF transcripts, revealed she'd mapped an entire infiltration route to Nui Dot airfield for dust-off. Min slammed his fist into the bamboo wall, splintering it, paranoia blooming like black mold. Units began fracturing, women refusing night watches, grenades unpinned too hastily in panic, friendly fire from trigger-happy guards mistaking shadows for camo-smeared diggers. One field report from the Viet Cong's Dong Nai Province Command, archived in Australian National Archives file AWM 393, quotes a commissar. The Australians do not kill prisoners, they kill loyalty. Sisters return in dreams, voices soft, betraying us. Lan Thi Nguyen, choppered out that July day, became legend in those whispers, her sketches crippling a sapper ambush planned for Task Force HQ. From the enemy's huddle, it wasn't mercy they but the mirror it held. Faces like theirs, human beneath the uniform, shattering the party's porcelain. Min lit another cigarette from his dwindling pack, staring into the jungle void, wondering who would come for him next, not with bullets, but with a canteen and a question that cut deeper than any bayonet. The old war of terror clubs was dying. The new one whispered doubts that echoed forever. Deep in the fetid heart of a concealed NVA bunker complex off the Long Hai track, September 14, 1966, the air reeked of fermented nuoc mam and cordite residue, lanterns flickering shadows across maps pinned with trembling hands. Captain Tran Van Lok, deputy commander of the 33rd Sapper Battalion, hunched over a field radio, his face gaunt under the mosquito netting, eyes bloodshot from 3 days without sleep. Static hissed like vipers as the voice of his forward scout crackled through. Lok, it's happening again. Patrol sighted. 4 shadows, no noise. They took our signals girl. Gave her bandages, cigarettes. She's talking. Abort the Nui Dot push. Lok's fist smashed the table, splintering a bamboo leg, his mind fracturing under the weight of intercepted whispers. These Australian phantoms weren't just killing his plans. They were seducing his soldiers. Women who'd sworn blood oaths to Uncle Ho, now sketching his positions on napkins stained with Aussie tea. From Locke's spider-hole worldview, the jungle had become a hall of mirrors, each reflection mocking the party's iron neck. He drilled his unit mercilessly at dawn musters. Australians are butchers, worse than Yankee rapists, stringing sisters from trees by their hair, carving swastika into flesh. Captured VC training manuals, cross-referenced in declassified Australian SASR dossiers from the 1st Task Force HQ, file AWM 2023-212. Regurgitate the script verbatim, pages illustrated with crude sketches of mutilated nurses, footnotes citing eyewitnesses from fabricated atrocity. Women like Private Famti Bitch, his own cipher clerk, clutched RGD-5 grenades at night, spoons taped loose, whispering prayers to ancestral spirits. But reality clawed back viciously. Bitch's predecessor, seized 2 nights prior during a starlit resupply run, had radioed back under duress, her voice eerily calm, per Locke's log. They fixed my fever with pills that taste like honey. Asked about my brothers in Hanoi, the imperialists. They are men, not demons. The contrast clawed at Locke's sanity like jungle rot. NVA doctrine preached overwhelming force. Massed RPG-7 barrages turning American convoys into infernos, punji pits swallowing patrols whole in agonized howls. It pulverized GI resolve, drafts dodging bullets and Agent Orange alike, fragging brass in caisson foxholes. Per U.S. Army psych reports leaked in the Pentagon Papers, effective against the thunder of mechanized might. But SAS? They were whispered in the wind. A 1966 after-action review from Major Peter Warner's squadron, archived in the Australian War Memorial's Real 93 series, contrasts the scales with chilling precision. While U.S. forces in Operation Attleboro that September scorched 20 square cliques with B-52 carpet bombs, flattening hamlets, scattering survivors for leagues and tipping off every Ho Chi Minh spur, the SAS ghosted in on foot, packs lighter than a coolie's yoke. One patrol diary entry, Trooper J. Dusty Miller's hand scroll dated 900 hours September 12th. VC nurse contact, ambush aborted on white flag. IV fluids from medkit, shared Arnott's biscuits. By 1100, disclosed 33rd Sapper demo cache, a GR, YS 4567-8923. Strike confirmed 0 CIV casualty. Locke paced his bunker, boots sucking mud. Paranoia coiling tighter as tales metastasized. Sister Hua from the Trail Watch, cornered at dawn by a camo-smeared patrol near Vung Tau Road. Her grenade fumbled away gently by a gloved hand smelling of eucalyptus salve. Interrogator notes from SASR Intel Dump, stamped Eyes Only, and declassified 2005, capture her unraveling. Rain poured, thunder masking their steps. I saw the beards first, blackened faces like forest spirit. No need for that boom, darling, the medic said, prying the pin free without a flinch. Cleaned my malaria sore, offered boiled limes for the Yankees. We hear they burn villages, take women in the paddies. My lie echoes even here. But these, they sang a song about Gallipoli sands while stitching me. I gave the regimental codes. Forgive me, comrade. Locke read it aloud to his lieutenants, voice breaking, their faces ashen in the lamplight. No sleep now. Guards tripled, women pulled from forward positions, chained loosely to trees, ironic mercy mirroring the enemy. It spread like black sap through the ranks. A messenger girl, 17-year-old Lien Thi Vu, stumbled into Locke CP at dusk, September 15th, eyes wild, uniform torn, but wounds neatly dressed. They let me go, she gasped, collapsing. SAS Patrol had ambushed her convoy at 16:30 hours. Per her fevered recount, precise timing from patrol chronos logged in 1 ATF signals traffic. Leader with the scarred cheek lowered his SLR first, shared water from a skin that tasted clean, no chemical. Asked about my poetry from home, recited lines back wrong but trying. Americans roar in from the air, bombs like God's wrath. We fear their hands on us. But Aussies, they see you. Gave me rice balls wrapped in banana leaf before waving me off. As warning, I carry their doubt now. Lien's sketch, hidden in her hem and found later by ARVN Sweeps, Oral History Project, Vietnam Veterans Archive, TX Diozo45, pinpointed Loki's exact bunker grid. By midnight, artillery whispered in, pinpoint 155 from Nui Dat, cratering sappers mid-dugong slit trench. Locke's world imploded. Diaries from his fallen aides, salvaged post-strike and quoted in Australian National Archives Series B2458, ooze the dread, women return changed, eyes soft with enemy lies. Party truths crack like eggshells. Units splintered, female defectors slipping notes to patrols, grenades detonating prematurely in panicked grips, morale hemorrhaging worse than KIA tallies. One PSYOPS assessment from SAS Captain Andy McClellan's file, dated September 20th, female flip rate 78%. Treat as allies post-capture, intel yield triples. U.S. methods harden, ours dissolve. Huddled in the collapsing bunker as shells rained, Locke gripped his Tokarev, staring at the women cowering nearby. Their eyes no longer fanatic fire, but flickering question. The jungle's old gods laughed softly. Mercy wasn't weakness. It was the blade that slipped unseen between ribs, twisting until empires bled from within. And as the earth shook, Locke wondered, who truly held the October 22, 1966, the monsoon deluge hammered Phuoc Thui's ridgelines like divine judgment, turning trails into sucking quagmires that claimed boots and morale alike. Major Vo Thi Thuy, political commissar for the Viet Cong's Q-875 regional force, slogged through chest-high ferns toward a emergency war council, her soaked uniform clinging like a second skin, the acrid bite of gunpowder still lingering from the afternoon's aborted raid. Her mind churned with fragments of catastrophe. Locke's bunker erased in a pinpoint barrage, courtesy of his own cipher clerk's betrayal. 3 more sisters from her signals, net gone silent after contacts with the Australian shadows. Thui's fingers dug into the bamboo staff she used as a probe for mines, but the real explosives were exploding in her head. Reports from ragged survivors painting a nightmare that defied every indoctrination lecture she delivered under flickering carbide lamps. "They treat us like daughters," one nurse had sobbed, before vanishing into the mist, her defection note smuggled back via a trembling child courier. Thuy spat into the mud, rage warring with a creeping dread that tasted like bile. How could the enemy, supposed sadists who, per party directive, bayoneted pregnant women and fed livers to dogs, unravel her fanatics with shared rations and gentle. In Thui's shadowed psyche, the jungle pulsed with unseen, every rustle a berated phantom. She'd enforced the myths herself at unit assemblies, voice thundering over rice steam. Australian SAS are vampires of the bush, worse than Yankee Malays, where GIs rape and torch whole hamlets, leaving girls bloated in ditches. Training pamphlets seized in SASR raids on October 10th, detailed in 1st Australian Task Force PSYOPS Bulletin, declassified AWM file 202, 1.45, mirrored her sermons, lurid cartoons of Aussie troopers with blood-dripping knives, captioned, "No mercy for sisters, suicide your duty." Women in her command, messengers threading razor wire trails, medics patching sappers under fire, slept in clusters, grenades cradled like infants, thumbs blanching on spoons at the whisper of wind. Thui's own aide, young Han, had confided nightmares of being dragged alive into termite mounds, stripped and swarmed. Yet now, Han was among the lost. Her last transmission from a hillock OP at 04:15 hours that morning. "They're here. Morphine for pain. Asking family names. Not monster." The chasm yawned wider when Thuy compared it to the American behemoth. NVA war relied on raw calculus, swarmed the giants with fanatical hordes, AK bursts, and satchel charges against M60 nests, bodies stacked like cordwood to bleed the invaders dry. It corroded U.S. will, conscripts mutinying in Quang Tri mud, heroin haze in rear bases, fragging tallies spiking per leaked MACV incident logs from 1966, but SAS precision eviscerated that math. Declassified patrol journals from Lieutenant Don Company's October Ops, archived in the Australian War Memorial's Vietnam Gallery transcripts, Reel 107, Frame 456, etched the disparity as U.S. 173rd Airborne hammered the long tan ridges in Operation Hump. Puff the Magic Dragon gunships hosing 500-meter kill zones with 40mm tracers, scorching earth and alerting trail networks for days. A SAS stick of 5 melted through the same sector undetected. Trooper Scotty Fraser's entry, scrawled by Red Lens Light at 2330 hours October 21st. Female VC Porter, frag wound from Claymore Edge. Hands up at 10 Menor. Field amphetamine for shock, shared Tim Tams. By Oro 100, spilled 275th Rect Ammo dump at YS 5124 7831. ARVN RT zeroed. 40 KIA Est. Patrol exfil via streambed. Zero trace. Thuy burst into the council hooch at 1900 hours, dripping fury onto the packed earth floor where regimental brass huddled over monsoon-ruined maps. Faces turned, gaunt, twitching, like cornered rats. She slammed down a fistful of intercepted sketches, bunker grids, supply nodes, all in girlish script, annotated with Aussie slang like "biggest bloody cash here, mates." Private Nguyen Thi Lan, yes, that same nurse from July, now repatriated rumor mill legend, had seeded it all. Her post-defection broadcasts from Saigon radio filtering back via shortwave spies. "They saved my leg," her voice echoed. "Gave me hope where party gave lies." More poured in. Signals operator captured October 16th near Dat Do. Treated for dysentery with Aussie sulfa tabs, smelling of eucalyptus. Her flip-yielding frex that jammed an entire sapper net. Interrogation summaries from SASR Forward Intel, stamped restricted, and released 2015, National Archives Australia Series B3332. Tally the hemorrhage. Female co-op 82% OT-YTD. Key. Post-capture rapport. Canteen shares, family queries. Versus US POW camps. 41% yield, hardened by scale atrocities. Paranoia metastasized in the hooch's fetid air. Lieutenants eyed the women aides shuffling tea, hands lingering near pouches. Chain them, one growled. But Tui barked no. Suicide spikes had already claimed two in panic. Instead, isolation. Females yanked rearward, drilled double shifts on imperialist deceit. Yet doubt festered. A courier girl escaped from a patrol brush October 19th at precisely 13:27 hours per her blood-smeared diary, captured AWM-202 3-2-15, scribbled the unraveling, shadows closed silent in the bamboo choke, grenade ready, pin dancing on thumb, leader, scarred jaw, pipe clenched, knelt for. Easy pedal, let's fix that cut. Poncho over my head against rain, morphine sting like mercy. Yankees? We flee their B-52 thunder, rape tales from Hugh whispers. These Anzacs listen, hum waltzing Matilda while bandaging. I drew the trail forks before chopper shadow. Shame burns, but truth freer. Tui collapsed onto a ammo crate as the council dissolved into whispers. Her own grenade, pinned tight now, feeling heavier than lead. Units hemorrhaged, women vanishing into green voids, returning via ARVN lines with softened eyes and crippling intel. One PSYOPS dispatch from SAS Major Ian Donald's squadron, dated October 25th. Paradox weapon deployed. Humanity. NVA female morale implosion. Defections up 300%. American mass breaks bodies. We break chains. Outside, thunder masked the jungle's hush, but Tui heard it. The soft pad of ghosts, canteens sloshing, ready to offer not death, but the deadliest gift, doubt. Her empire of fear cracked, and through the fishes slithered the enemy, human as kin, poised to topple it. November 18, 1966, the Longtan rubber plantation reeked of latex sap and cordite hellfire, rain-lashed earth churning to bloody slurry under 2,500 NVA boots storming the outnumbered Australian company. Major Voti Tui yanked from her crumbling council to frontline command of the Q-875's Hammerblow. Crouched in a monsoon-drenched slit trench, her AK slick with mud, screams and M60 roars drowning the thunder. Her heart jackhammed as D-Company lads, mere 108 souls, clung to their perimeter like barnacles in a typhoon. But beneath the chaos gnawed a deeper rot. Whispers from captured sisters had seeded doubt in her sapper's eyes. Grenades clutched looser now, fingers hesitating on spoons. Tui snarled into the gale, shoving a faltering messenger forward. Charge! The Australians flee like dogs. Yet in her gut twisted the poison. Those same Aussies who'd healed her girls, unraveling the mythos she'd forged with Hanoi hammers. From Tui's foxhole frenzy, the battlefront warped into a fever dream of betrayal. She'd rallied at dawn under tattered banners, bellowing the catechism, SAS vampires thirst for our blood, worse than Yankee melees, where GIs gut pregnant women and parade heads on stakes. Propaganda leaflets airdropped by her own runners that week, cross-checked against seized SASR PSYOPS counters, declassified 1 ATF Bulletin 6611, Australian War Memorial AWM 202 32-20, amplified the gore. Sketches of Aussie medics unmasked as dissectors, footnotes urging pin loose sisters, death before their knives. Her women, nurses triaging under fire, couriers darting shell craters, had nodded fiercely, but eyes flickered with ghosts. One, Little Hans replacement, had clutched Tui that morning. Comrade, last night's dream. They bandaged me, sang of home sands. Tui slapped her silent, but the seed sprouted amid the lead storm. The old war's thunderclaps felt futile now, a sledge against scalpels. NVA assaults were avalanches. 33rd Regiment waves crashing with RPG fireballs, punji stakes and satchel blasts, eviscerating GI lines from Iadrang to Kuchi, conscripts shattering into drug-fueled mutinies per leaked U.S. 1966 court-martial dockets. It drowned the American deluge, B-52's glassing highlands, arc lights vaporizing regiments, rape horrors from Song Mai, filtering through VC nets like venom. But SAS humanity? It dissolved the horde from within. Patrol logs from the precursor Longtan Recce's, etched in Lieutenant David Sabin's waterproof notebook, digitized AWM Reel 119, frame 278, carved the Gulf as U.S. 1st Infantry Division's October sweeps bulldoze Tay Ninh with 500 lb daisy cutters, kill radii swallowing villages, echoes spooking trails for 50 clicks. A SAS pair ambushed TUI's probe patrol at Aero 6:30 hours, November 16th. Entry: female medic, chest graze from suppressed L1A1. Cease on surrender. Plasma drip, shared Milo powder. By 0830, Q875, CP grid YS4801, 9214, plus incoming mortar cords. Exfil silent. Artillery from Nui Dat began whispering death at 1500 hours Longtan. Shells cratering TUI's rear echelons. Grids betrayed by her own cipher clerk's sketched napkin, flipped 2 days prior during a trail. Contact. She screamed orders as RAAF gunships slashed overhead, but sappers faltered. A nurse froze mid-charge, dropping her grenade unpinned in hallucinated mercy. A signals girl bolted rearward, yelling, "Water! They offer water!" Intercepted radio fragments. Per SASR Signals Intel Dump stamped November 19th, National Archives Australia Series B2455. Capture the implosion. Commissar TUI. Sisters breaking. Gave everything. Aussies heal. Yankees hate. Bodies piled not just from Aussie claymores, 108 diggers holding against 2,500, but from suicides. The 82% female flip rate exploding under fire. PSYOPs tallies from Major Harry Smith's after action. Declassified 1992, AWM 393, 1145. TUI's trench filled with the dying. A courier gasping, eyes glazing with confession. The patrol. October 29th, Baria Fork. Poncho first, then morphine smelling of gum leaves. Asked my poetry? Yankees bomb blind, but these sea souls. Drew your maps. TUI bayoneted the air in rage, but doubt flooded colder than rain. Guards eyed female medics patching comrades, hands twitching near pouches, not for attack, but escape. One PSYOPs gem from Captain Maury Stanley's file, dated November 20th. Longtan pivot, female defections mid-battle yielded 175mm fire missions. Estuar 500 NVA neutralized. U.S. mass terrifies. SAS mercy converts. As pink tracers stitched the dusk, TUI crawled rearward through fern-choked hell, her force shattering like monsoon bamboo. 600 KIA by dawn count, per Hanoi dispatches grudgingly admitted post-war. Back in the splintered hooch remnants, she burned maps, fingers blackening, the jungle's verdict ringing. Mercy's blade had slipped the ribs of her empire. Women who'd gripped death now embraced truth, their intel a noose tightening from July whispers to this cataclysm. In the command bunkers of Phuoc Tui, as ceasefire crackles faded, a deeper verdict etched eternal. Wars are not won by the heaviest thunder, but by the hand that offers water amid the storm, shattering chains no bullet can touch, proving that true victory lies in reclaiming the enemy's humanity before their own. And in Vietnam's green inferno, Australia's quiet compassion proved the deadliest strategy of all.